Welcome to Chief Architect Network Live. Hope you're having an awesome week so far. We're excited to be back here again today with another great episode. I'm Brian Chambers, Chief Architect at Chick-fil-A. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Ecker. Grant, how's it going, man?
It's going awesome.
Want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, so Grant Ecker, I'm currently in a contract role with Walgreens Boots Alliance as a chief architect. And I'm the founder and chairman of this network that we enjoy so much together.
Yeah, speaking of that, the Chief Architect Network is the network we speak of. And I want to tell you just a little bit about that real quick. It's exactly what it sounds like. It is a network of chief architects. And we have a couple specific things that we're here to do together. That's to widen our perspectives, to share best practices with each other, to grow as leaders, develop talent, and then maybe most importantly, to work together to drive outcomes and see things happen in our business that maybe wouldn't happen otherwise. So it's an awesome network. We've got a really great group of leaders from all kinds of Fortune 500 and other businesses that participate with us. We do quarterly meetups. We've got topical breakouts about interesting topics for architects, a peer connection program, and so much more. So if you're interested in participating in the Chief Architect Network and you are a chief architect, we'd love to have you. We'll drop a link to our application form in the show notes here in just a minute, but you can also find us online at chiefarchitectnetwork.com. So today's event is live, and that means that you've got the awesome opportunity as a listener to ask us questions that we'll get to address. And we can make sure that we take the show in a direction that really helps you and gets you answers to the things you're thinking about as you follow along on the journey with us. So we're super glad to have you here today. At this point, I want to hand it over to Grant real quick. He's got a couple things he wants to share about the network, and then he's going to introduce you to our special guest that we have joining us today. Grant, take it away, man.
Absolutely. Hello, Michael. Hello, Linda. Thanks for being here with us. We are super excited to be with you today, celebrating a really close friend of mine and colleague, Whynde Kuehn. She is a rock star. She is a thought leader and somebody that I couldn't be more thrilled to share time with. Before we go to her, though, I want to share one other thing. I'm very excited about something happening in our network. And if you're a chief architect, apply to join us at chiefarchitectnetwork.com. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and on YouTube's and kind of keep a track of what all our members are up to. We've just launched an internal page for all of our members, a place where we can connect on topics, where we can connect by region, and where we really can come together into all the other things we do together, like publishing articles and things like this YouTube. So if you are considering joining us, now is a great time. We're starting to put some great offers out there. So just as Whynde's about to launch a book, we've just launched a platform. So it's kind of a fun July for all of us. So I'm really excited about that. Well, without any further ado, I would love to introduce you to our friend, Whynde. So let me bring her on stage with us and swap spots around a little bit here. Hey, Whynde, welcome. Welcome. We've known each other. We've worked together a number of times. It's been an absolute joy every time we've had a chance to be together. If you look at the comments here, everybody here certainly remembers and has enjoyed working with you as well. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Love it. Oh, and it is just a joy and honor to be here. And thank you for marking this really big occasion as well of this book launch. So yeah, a little bit about me. I do sort of live and breathe business architecture for those who know me. I feel really lucky to have practiced it at such a large scale, both in a corporate perspective, as well as also a for good perspective with cross-sector initiatives and nonprofits. So in particular, I focus on business architecture from a strategy execution and transformational perspective. I'm also a co-founder of the Business Architecture Guild, and we'll leave it at that.
Love it. Well, we're very excited. For those of you that don't know, we are on launch eve of Whynde's book. So it's a super big honor to have her spend time with us today, the day before her book is officially live. So we're going to get to spend some time with her, the author of this amazing book, her second one. And the first one made an earthquake. So this one, I'm a little worried about the city's infrastructure at this point. But we're going to get a chance to sit here with Whynde as an author and ask her questions. And this is all of us. So those of you in the chat, you'll be able to actually do that. In addition, we have a last half hour reserved for Chief Architect Network members. who can come on camera with us. We have Stephen King. We might have others come in and pop in and join the conversation. So very excited about that. So let's move into the conversation, Whynde. So Brian, I'm going to pass to you to start us off.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Whynde, it's great to have you. And I haven't gotten to hear a lot about your book so far. So I think I would just start there and say, tell us a little bit about it. How did you get inspired to undertake the work? And then what do you address within its many pages?
Love it. So my co-author, Dr. Brian Cameron, who is Associate Dean of the Business School at Penn State. So we're kind of kindred spirits in many ways, but we've really realized and appreciated this gap between strategy and execution. So we have these big, fantastic ideas, and then we sort of translate it in silos, and we end up with all this downstream challenge of duplicate solutions and fragmented experiences and tech debt and all the things that we know can happen. But what really started this for us, and I would say was the beginning of this book, was we did a study with the GBC Roundtable. And they looked at graduate business curriculums in North America, and the findings were pretty stunning. Almost none of them spend much time on strategy execution or teaching students how to execute strategy. So we focus on awesome stuff like formulating it and leadership and change, but not actually how to get idea into action. So Brian and I were really keen to be able to explain that gap and then be able to talk about how to bridge that gap. And so basically the book is the first two chapters lay out the strategy execution challenge, strategy formulation, how business architecture helps. And then we go into what business architecture looks like with tons and tons of diagrams. There are over 70 diagrams in this book. In the fourth chapter, we look at how to translate strategy step by step, portfolio, how to work with other teams, because that's critical, right? It takes a village to execute strategy. And then we end with looking at the practice and the future.
That's really awesome. Love it. And I love having a Brian as a co-author. I think that was a really great idea as well.
Good name. Yeah.
Grant, how about you?
Well, I'm fascinated. So coming out of Strategy to Reality, the book that, again, caused some serious structural damage to many of our buildings, and I hope you can live with that. Tell us what we can expect in going from that journey of that book to this book.
I love that question. Because, when I wrote Strategy to Reality, I was deciding, am I writing the strategy execution major in the biz arc minor or the business architecture major in the strategy execution minor? So strategy to Reality is more the business architecture deep dive. Now, obviously the concepts all hang together. This new book is more strategy execution as the macro level lens. It does have a lot more pictures, like I said, and it has framework. It's got an organizational assessment around strategy to execution. So it's got like more sort of tangible stuff there. And it's I'm going to say it's really more geared for a business audience, because that's where Brian and I really wanted to move the needle, is getting this in the hands of business executives, strategy, transformation, strategic planning, and higher education as well. So it's crafted through a different lens, and it's more emphasizing on strategy execution as the overall construct.
Awesome. And what are you most excited about having this out there? I mean, this is like a big deal. It's people equate it to a baby. Like, it's obviously not about the same, but this is your baby. So what are you most excited about getting this into people's hands?
I love that. It is a big deal. You know what? As I've always said from the last book and this book, I said, if it helps one person or two people, like, great, I did my job. But it's such an honor to be able to write and support this movement. So I think I'm most excited, honestly, just to see what happens, to see how it is accepted, where it takes hold, because I feel like this movement of architecture powered strategy execution has only been growing. So now we get to put this one out there and see, hopefully it reacts even quicker since we've built some of that groundwork already. And the other thing I'm really excited about, and I will say I have my greatest hopes on, is for this book to get into higher education so that business schools actually teach this as part of their curriculum. I am most excited there.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm fixing a small glitch I made. Oops, sorry guys, in the URL. So if you were trying to go there and you're like, why can't I get this book? Well, it's actually because I typed it wrong. So this is
me.
This is the fixed URL. So I don't remember which one I had wrong, but hopefully we're better. Ryan, over to you, my friend.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think you've sold a few books already. I saw a comment come through that somebody's looking for it, and I'll be pursuing it myself as soon as we get off here. Just trying to open Amazon on another tab already to see if it was there. So that's awesome. I see a bullet point over to the right side of our screen here that says earning a seat at the strategy table. And having been around in the business world for about 20 years myself, and in architecture roles for 12 of those or so, I see that as a big challenge in my organization in a lot of situations, and I hear it a lot from others. We don't want to spoil the book, but can you tell us some thoughts that you have around that particular challenge?
Yeah, on earning the seat at the table. Yeah, so part of it is, as just we were saying here, it's building the groundwork, it's building the appetite for the ideas. That obviously is a long-term journey, right? But that's what changes mindsets. That's what makes people more receptive. So I don't want to skip over that. And hopefully books like this can help with that, but building the mindset. The second thing, honestly, and you see this reflected in the book, and people that know me, I always say this, getting the seat at that table is one that's earned. It's not given, it's earned. And the way we get there is usually not by talking about it and talking about what we can do, right? But by actually doing it, finding the opportunity, getting in there, building the partnerships, and showing the value. Good ways to make our way to that table. Getting involved with portfolio management, I think, is a very realistic place to plug in. Or it's just, getting the right audience and say, hey, let's try to translate a strategy through the architecture layer. Let's just give it a shot. Let's see what it's like. Let's learn, let's adapt. But it's really proving it, bringing others along with the journey, I think is really big. I also think that earning a seat at the strategy table is, it's also how we position architecture and making it for everybody, right? So I really believe it's this knowledge base for all of us. And the more business people feel like it's their data, right? I think it only engages us. It kind of gets rid of some of this division as well.
That really resonates. And I think one of the amazing things, earning a seat at the table, it's earned, it's not given. And I really believe in something that Scott Ross, a leader that was kind enough to teach me a lot when we were together at Lowe's, mentioned around be, do, say. Be the change, right? Do the work. And after you've done those things, now talk. Everyone wants to do the opposite order, and it totally works in the wrong direction. By the way, for everybody commenting that they're holding the book right now, I am super jealous. I knew that the book launch was technically tomorrow, so I didn't even think to check, because I would have totally slam read that before we were together today. And I'm jealous of Malahat that's already on chapter 3. So not fair, my friend, not fair.
Grant, can I just say I am equally as jealous, because I live in Norway, and the book was sent a long time ago I don't even have a copy myself. So,
Oh man,
that's funny. Well, take us to maybe. I actually would love for you, if you wouldn't mind, to go a little off script, because we talk about earning, and that's around the building the relationships, the trust, showing up as a contributor, and all those things. We never talk about keeping. How do you keep your seat at the table once you're there, and not just have it, thanks, be bold, be brief, be gone. We don't need you again. You were helpful that one time. It's sort of like the one-hit band wonder versus, the multi-platinum records on the wall?
This is such a fantastic question, Grant. I appreciate you asking that because we do kind of think about getting there. To some extent, I think keeping is a little bit easier because we're in and people start to see the value, but it's continually finding new ways to deliver value. And I think some of this comes so much down to the human to me and how we show up. The architecture is like our thought process, our tool, our foundation, but it's, thinking about what keeps these people up at night. Where do we have challenges next? How can I help with that? It's just this, how can I help? How can I serve sort of an attitude, this partnership? And obviously the closeness of relationships to be able to find those things. It's just, there's something about getting in there with people and having those true partnerships that I think that's a big part of how we keep it, and making sure we're delivering on what we were supposed to, but then finding new things as well.
That makes a ton of sense. Let's step into the secrets, right? So some of the secrets, can you share maybe one or two, but hold the best one back so we have to buy the book?
oh, nice. Okay. Oh, all right. I'll think. Maybe I'll share a formula and a process. So
we're math geeks. We love formulas.
Awesome. I'm going to say formula for success. The success factors for a business architecture practice. What I find the top two again and again, and I do a lot of surveys, so I'm kind of always getting data. Top two success factors are continuous value delivery and building partnerships with other people. I mean, enterprise architecture as an umbrella, that goes without saying, but I mean others, not just strategy and strategic planning. I mean, human-centered design and process and org design and others. Having a perfect business architecture knowledge base is not one of those factors, right? And if we don't have one, but we have all the human buy-in, like we can fix that, right? So that's why I'm emphasizing this. So my formula is continuous value delivery times strong partnerships, continuous value delivery plus strong partnerships times sponsorship. And the reason why I say times sponsorship is rocket fuel. And here's the thing, if you don't have sponsorship, which is the situation for a lot of business architecture teams out there, we can get it, we can earn it with value delivery and partnerships. But like I said, when you do have that sponsorship, and Grant, I know this from working with you firsthand, that sponsorship is the rocket fuel, and how much we can do, how much impact we can make, and how quickly we can do it is it can be night and day, actually. So that's my formula. And the process, kind of another secret for success, is what's really proven itself as a way to establish business architecture as a strategic practice. And this is worked around the world. And I look forward to it not having to be so organic at some point. And by the way, when I talk about business architecture, we're in the EA umbrella, right? So I'm not trying to split anything here. But the process is articulate your value. Ideally, have a sponsor and help arm them with that value proposition. And the reason why I say you're starting there, because if you have, again, a knowledge base, but you don't have the value story defined and articulated for your organization, like what are you working towards and what are you telling people? Now it's just like doing architecture, right? So define value, get that sponsor, and then we go into a loop, right? And that loop is deliver on the value for a use case, and then come back around, see how we did, tell the story, build advocates, adjust, and do it again. And then, so we're basically, that's how we continually build value. And we are building out the knowledge base and the practice just enough, just in time. So basically that process is how to build the plane while flying. You're just adding on to the knowledge base and, increasing, scaling what we do as we have the opportunity.
That's really great. I love it. I'm excited to read and make it even more tangible for me, for sure. We have a question from the audience that we wanted to ask you. Comes from Jim Teal. So he said, Whynde, since architecture changes that are needed also often require organizational change or at least some retraining, how would you approach the paradigm shifts that are needed to move kind of from a more traditional approach or like to a cloud native architecture or things like that, as an example?
Good question. I think there's a lot of things in here. And the first thing that comes to my mind is this is all about the business, and what makes sense for the business, bringing the business on board, why we're doing these things. So paradigm shift, I am a big fan of architecture principles as a way to guide. So I think baking it in there. And I think business people understanding the why and what we're doing. And as Jim very astutely points out, this is organizational change. It's mindset to be baking in, and it's going to impact a lot of things. So really considering all of that. Right on.
I have a little follow-up to that. It's a selfish question because I'm about to write about this topic in a blog post anyway. You mentioned architecture principles, and I'm a massive fan as well. We use them a lot at Chick-fil-A to try and help people think differently or think about how they build things differently, things like that. What do you think makes a good principle? And are there things that maybe make a principle like useless or do more harm than good?
Love it. And so I come with a really strong business lens on all of this. So I think they should be understandable, business and technology, and be clear enough that they provide direction, right? So we should be able to put scenarios into those principles, and they should guide us to this way or that way or somewhere in between, right? So they're actually guidance, not just fluff, right? Not just sounding good, right?
Yeah,
So they should actually be directional and understood. They should, I would say, include ties back to the business and things that make sense to the business, alignment and so on, and things that we want to bake in there. But clarity is important, understanding is important, and not having enough but not too many, I think, is also important, because if you got too much stuff, now it's cognitive load and just too much to assess.
Yeah, beautiful.
Peter and Kevin are right there with you. It's fun kind of seeing people like, minimal but meaningful, just enough. It's kind of fun. And I also love Michael's comment about the C-level. And Michael's been amazing at this. A lot of these folks are our members in our network, which is so fantastic, right? It's all about bringing them along. And I think that's one of the secret skills that Michael has, is bringing people along. Let's talk about creating the change. We are change leaders. And I don't know if it's clear to everybody, but Whynde's a member of the Chief Architect Network. And she's part of what we do. She is a chief architect in the business architecture domain. So, we all are change leaders. What do you see as the most effective way to influence business architecture and EA to drive outcomes?
I think starting with why. Again, you can see I'm very much bring others along, create the fertile bed, create the foundation, and then everything gets easier from there. And when I say
bring Randy right in time, the why.
Oh, nice, perfect. When I say bringing it to the why, I think helping people understand that there are some unbelievably powerful value propositions from thinking differently that architecture brings to the table. Like, one example is strategy execution. So what if we could actually head off the redundancy and all the challenges that happen downstream, instead of sort of rushing there with the bias towards action? If we translate our direction and coordinate our work through the architecture, starting through the business architecture, the value stream capability first point, we can head off so many things. And to me, that is such a powerful value proposition, along with a why, like, everything's a priority. How do we decide? We need more and more budget to be able to fix stuff as well as, do new stuff. Well, what if we could bundle work in a way that fully leveraged our resources? Because now we're oriented around capabilities instead of a laundry list of all this work of initiatives and solutions. So I think helping people to really understand the why and the very powerful play that enterprise architecture can make. I also think that we can help. I think it's getting people to understand what I'll say is architectural thinking, or the architectural concept. So it gets it out of EA or BA. We got to do EA, BA. We got to have them here. And it's like, how do we think modular, and getting people in the organization, including business leaders, to say, if we could actually look at our business in a modular way, how can we be more efficient and agile and save dollars and be able to change quicker? How can we actually put those pieces together in new ways to innovate? And how can we also, have better in our digital connected world, right? Exchange with not only within the organization, but with partners as well. So everything I said there applies to business. It's just appreciating this thinking, or the big picture thinking, the end-to-end thinking. If we do this over here, look what it's going to create. And I think maybe the last thing is just inspiring people to realize we have data about everything and everyone except a view of what our organizations do holistically. And that is what this discipline, that is what architecture brings to the table. And if we want to do data-driven insights for our business, this is it. Yeah.
Awesome. We have a question from the audience again from Sandeep, and he acknowledged we are the change leaders. I think both of y'all said that. So excited about that. So the question is, how do we get stakeholders to adapt to that?
Yeah. And not to repeat myself, but I do think get in there, show value, build relationships with those stakeholders, that will change things. And I know it sounds really organic, but that works a lot better than just trying to explain it to people. And actually do work with those stakeholders and help solve problems for those stakeholders. And also, telling stories of others. I'm big into leverage peer pressure. Hey, this leader over here did the same thing. Maybe it applies to you. Maybe you should be doing the same thing. And then also, getting stakeholders to adapt to it as much as we can. Have that sponsor that's the rocket fuel that can help us, or we get the top level leader support, changing the culture around it. Those things help, but bit by, as I say, one person, one win, one step at a time on the top of this mountain. I'm very patient. I actually am a mountain climber, and that's the only way to get there. So because this is about people change.
Stop everything. I bet most people don't know that. Tell them about your crazy Arctic, well, not crazy, they're amazing, Arctic expeditions.
Oh, yeah. No, I have done some crazy, I've done a marathon on almost every continent. So I did run on Antarctica. That was really silly, but fantastic. I mountaineer whenever chance I get as well. Cascades, Aconcagua, Cotopaxi, places like that. So
pretty fun.
I like big.
You have a favorite?
Aconcagua, I think.
Okay.
Is a
highest point in South America for those who aren't familiar with it.
I love that you know that. Awesome. You must be a climber. Cool.
That's awesome. We got a question from Stephen King. How does the people process challenge influence the ability to drive adoption? And how does adopting business architecture influence the people process adaptions?
Can you put that one up by any chance? Or
yeah, let's see if I can. I'm going to try to pop it in. I haven't done this before, so this one will be a fun one. Let's see what happens when I try it. Probably come in as a YouTube comment. Let's see.
Cool. If not, I'll just ask for one more time.
There we go. All right. How does the people process challenge influence the ability to drive adoption? And how are we adapting business architecture to influence the people It's very architecture. We love that. Like, do things right or do the right things. I love that, Stephen King. That's so how we talk and how we
Good parallel. That's a great parallel, actually. So people process challenge, how does it influence the ability to drive adoption? So business architecture is inevitably going to pull in all the pieces. It pulls in the people, the process, marries it to the technology, and it also marries it to the experience for people. And of course, some of those people being customers. So I think I like the question, right? Because I think business architecture is inevitably going to help with this challenge, right? Because it's part of what we do. And it's not just working in a vacuum. As I mentioned earlier, business architecture tends to sort of be this center of gravity and scaffolding to bring together other teams. So we're bringing in org design, we're bringing in process as well, and working with those disciplines hand in hand as well. Yeah.
I have I have a
You know,
follow-up.
we are at kind of that point in the time, but I don't think we have anyone live able to come on at the moment. But if you are a Chief Architect Network member, use the second link in the invitation you have and join us on camera. But this actually kind of allows us to dig in a little bit deeper with the questions that you might have watching live on LinkedIn. So I think I've got one here that we can pull up. Thanks for this, Whynde. Please repeat again what you said. Architecture brings light about the organization, if that rings a bell. No?
No bells.
Okay.
It's
a nice metaphor. I think it does.
Well, it brings light to a whole lot of things. I mean, it's the common view of what we do, and it plays this role like a business blueprint, right? Just like we think about for homes and things like that. It helps to create common understanding. It helps to activate change. So if this person can give us a little bit more nugget on the light, I'm happy to share. But yeah, and business architecture does shine light on a whole bunch of things like challenges and opportunities to where we have redundancy or whatever it may be. Yeah, it just kind of depends on the context there.
And Toby, I think that was you that had the comment. If you can come in with a second one, we'll put it back on the screen. Let's see what else we have. And actually, before we go to that, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I got a question for you, Whynde. It strikes me that some of the audience could be in a position where perhaps they aren't doing business architecture today, or they're thinking about it. We maybe could have started with this, but if you had to define it, what would be your simple way? And if you actually were getting started today and you were trying to get, leadership bought in or make your formula work, right? Like sponsorship and things like that, like where would you advise people start?
Where to start? Yep. So, I honestly, I know I just said it, but it's really relevant. I like to explain to people business architecture is a blueprint of an organization. And what makes it so special and unique is that it's a view of the whole, right? It's very refreshing. We have a lot of fragmented views. This is a view of the whole. It's also higher level elevation. It connects to the details, right? But it's more of the forest view. And it's business driven and business owned, right? So those are all some unique things. What actually makes it up, then we can get geeky, right? What makes it up? 10 domains, capabilities, value streams at the heart. I do also like to emphasize the modular building blocks of not just capabilities, but value streams. They're at the heart of design and translating change. So that's what business architecture is. And by the way, depending on who I'm talking to, I may actually talk more about the why than the what, right? Kind of keep it real easy. But getting started, Brian, is a really good question. And I know I gave a little bit of that process, but the first thing to get started, or even if we have business architecture as a layer within our enterprise architecture team already, it's how can we find new strategic opportunities, new value, right? And where I tend to look is, as I said, strategy, translation, portfolio are really good places to look, but the opportunities are infinite. It could be acquisitions. It could be, and should be, how do we look at that blueprint and understand where we should be leveraging AI and what the impacts are, or sustainability, right? So it's for your organization, because I can talk all day about how great it is for strategy execution or this or that. You have to find the hook in your organization and articulate it in a way that makes sense. And here's the other bit of the value prop, find your first use case. Find someone that will allow you to help them. So once you've done that, and this is kind of making it sound very sequential when there's, things happening at the same time, you do need to build the business architecture baseline, because we're kind of not doing business architecture without it. So quick way to accelerate that, leverage reference models. The Guild has industry reference models. I'm sure others use them from other sources as well. But build that out. Now, perfect world, build it with a cross-functional group of business people, because there's nothing like that to actually make sure it's right and complete and that they own it. All right. So however you get there, full capability map, ideally down to level 2 or 3. There's ways to shortcut that too. Set of value streams, and now you're in business, right? Now you apply that for the first usage scenario. And like I say, we kind of go around in this loop then to deliver, show, tell the story. And it's also building a practice, right? It's about being deliberate and intentional. And building the partnerships and having the socialization time, and now thinking about the tool and all of that. So those things come along, but it's really that value prop usage scenario. And I guess I should have mentioned making sure you have the right team in place. That's kind of an important part of the startup as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe to echo back what I'm thinking as you talk is, and maybe others are too, like there is no easy button really. And this stuff happens through a lot of deliberate work, relationship building, partnership, listening, things that are hard and take time. I don't think there's if leadership would just give us this thing, we would just be able to do our thing and it would all be great. It's impossible. It doesn't happen. You got to go through the process that you just described so eloquently, which I love. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch this again. But
totally, I'm thinking to watch this.
No easy button, is an important note. Like you can't just get a thing and go.
It's kind of nice. You actually had a guest join us. So Jill's here. So Jill, if you come on camera, we can get you ready to bring you up. But before we go to you, I'd love to let Karsten's question get some airtime here. So Karsten asked, how do you align product roadmaps and enterprise architecture, especially when aligning OKRs and agile processes?
Okay, so a little bit different lens here. Business lens, connecting the dots is where I'm coming from as I answer this. So there's a lot of work going on in an organization. Product roadmaps are part of it. That's not necessarily all of the work, right? We got acquisitions, we got this thing over here, we got this cultural change over there. So what I really love about the business architecture is it's simply, and it's not easy, but it simply connects the dots, because if we know who's enhancing which capabilities across products, across other stuff, we can now bring all the work together. So that's how I think about that. So the question of, I think it was like bringing together enterprise architecture and product roadmaps. To me, it's, translating direction, understanding which enhancements we want to make to capabilities in value stream context, and how that flows into the products. Where I often see, I'll at least say business architects get involved, is informing those product roadmaps, making sure they connect back to the business direction, and making sure that the product roadmaps are actually tied together. Because what I find is that we don't always have as much collaboration across those product teams as we need, right? And so minimally, the capabilities give us the dot connectors. So that's how I look at it, how we would align them. It's just very kind of mixed together. And again, back to partnership with product managers and owners and so on. Yeah.
I'm actually going to bring Sarjil in a second here. He's just coming on camera. And as we do, I want to express the importance of booking conference rooms. I'm back in the in-person today, and I realized that people were knocking and lining up outside the door. And I'm like, oh my God.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's pretty fun. Sarjil, are you here? We'd love to bring you onto the stage. There you are. All right.
Brian, how are you,
welcome.
Guys?
So glad you could join us.
Thank you for arranging it. Yes, thank you for arranging it. I love the conversation, and it's music to the ear, thinking and hearing about the importance of the business architecture. So I don't really have a question, but you basically certify what I was taught as an EA and a strategist since mid-2000, that enterprise architecture means business is part of it. Because I was sort of raised in the architecture world with the fact that enterprise has business, it has technology, it has tool, it has process, vendors, suppliers. So I'm actually loving it. You just said what I've been telling and practicing, and as the 4 or 5 practices I've built in the last 15 years, I never had an architect only for business. When I, bring somebody to the table, by the way, as an EA, that means they have gone through the business side of the house, plus the technology and the process. So I love the conversation and still loving it. Thank you, Grant, and everyone for arranging this.
Well, we'll have to have a session in the future here to talk about this as a network, and have Whynde just looping you in. We'd love to have you maybe come join us and talk about your book live, where we can all have read it and get some conversation going. Thanks for being here, Sarjil.
Thank you.
I love it, and that's music to my ears. And I love how you're building your practices, that you're saying with this strategic angle. You remind me of I did a talk in Munich last week, and a gentleman from the audience says, How do you define the business architect role? What should I look for? And I defined it. He said, that sounds like an enterprise architect. I said, yes, good, because isn't that actually great?
Yes.
He heard the business.
It's not us and them. It's literally us and us. We are here to build a discipline of moving from strategy to execution, connecting technology to provide business enablement. And we do that together, and we have different focuses, but the enterprise architects have to be able to speak that language to enable their whole practice. It's the tip of the spear. Now, I'll go off on tangent for a second, because sometimes we have what I like to call the Ecker's hierarchy of architecture, where you have to have the Maslow's hierarchy of execution to build the trust to earn your seat at the strategy table to go to innovation. But as you make your way up the triangle, ultimately that becomes the way that you're bringing in work earlier, and it becomes the virtuous cycle of a strategic enabling architecture practice. Some of my favorite people here are commenting. We've got Gita sharing a consideration here. I'll just let that kind of sit on the screen for a moment. And we're getting to, right? It stands by itself. I always appreciate Gita's comments. And I do have a question I can bring up as well from Peter Reynolds. So Peter's saying, not to say there's no value in reuse of vendor capability models, but I think the sole focus over reliance on them is a mistake, accruing in debt that would be more costly to resolve in the long run to effectively deliver the strategy and vision for the enterprise. What are your thoughts on Peter's question or comment?
Totally agree. And it can be tempting to leverage things just right off the shelf. And if we pay a lot of money for them, even more tempting. But I absolutely agree with Peter. I even like that he used the word debt, because we have to think about what set of principles we want our capability map to be based upon. Not every reference model I'll just say it this way, not every reference model may meet the set of principles we think are important to help us do what we need to do with our capability map. The other thing I think is important is we didn't build it ourselves. So it's not just that, oh, maybe it doesn't reflect us as much, we should tweak it. It's we weren't part of the process. And having done this, and I know it sounds crazy, but I absolutely bring together a cross-functional group of business people to build this stuff all the time. There is nothing like that process of having to say, oh, wow, you call it that, we call it this. Oh, I didn't know you did that. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, this is actually the same stuff. So it's that you miss that whole human process. And especially especially depending on where it comes from, we don't have skin in the game. Right. So you got to make it yours, and you got to get the business involved, and you got to make sure that the capability map that you use is adhering to a set of principles that will help your decision making. Right on. Good call.
Well, we're about getting to that time of the wrap up period of the conversation. So it's kind of a moment for us to just sit and kind of take, what are some of the things that you want people to take away from today's conversation, Whynde? What do you think?
Wow. Oh, I don't want it to be over. You're such an
amazing.
I know. I'm just so inspired. I think Sharjeel and in these comments that we're seeing in the chat from Gita and all these others, keep thinking about architecture in a strategic business in a strategic business context. I think that is one of the biggest takeaways. Keep bringing others. Make business architecture and enterprise architecture for everybody. And also do what we can to facilitate the mindset, teach people architectural thinking, get them inspired about the possible and how it's actually going to solve their problems, like help them understand the bigger why and how architecture really elegantly and powerfully can help with that.
I love that. I'll just wrap with a few comments. Well, Brian, let me pass to you first. Do you have anything you want to share before we start to wrap up today's conversation?
Sure. Yeah. I'd just like to say thanks to Whynde. This has been an incredible conversation, and I wish we could listen to you for a lot longer. And I have like 5 more things I thought of during the last question I could ask you. So maybe we'll do a follow-up one day, but I'm gonna check out your books, and definitely want to encourage everybody else to do the same. Grant, if you can throw the link up again and remind people where that is. But thank you so much. This has been awesome. Grant, how about you?
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for being here. Of course, Whynde, thanks for more than anything, your friendship over the years and what we've been building together, for being an inspirational force in women in architecture and activating that community. We need more women in architecture, full stop. We've got to get more people into this profession. It's a wonderful thing. Check out the Women of Architecture, Women in Architecture. What's the URL, Whynde?
The Women in Architecture.
Thank you. Check that URL out. Sorry, I didn't have a banner ready for it. If you are a chief architect listening in, please join us. There's no cost. It's just about connecting as peers. We have about 279 members currently globally and growing. And we've just released a brand new platform to help us all connect and stay engaged. So very excited about that. And thank you to all of you for dialing in and joining us and being a part of this conversation. That's what makes this thing fun. It's a network. We learn together, we grow together, we share together, and we celebrate together. Like when our great friends make a brand new book that causes damage in cities across the world. So Whynde, thank you for leading us, for being an inspiration to all of us in the profession and being an example of how far women can go in this field. True thought leaders, true drivers of the profession. There's no limit. And I hope more women take this path and carve our industry like you do. So thanks for being with us today, everyone. Hope to catch you next time on the Chief Architect Network.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.